Hello everyone, hi, welcome to the channel of Wall Street Mojo. Friends, today we are going to learn a tutorial on SEC filings. Let's get into the nitty-gritty and understand what exactly are we talking about here. See, there are some types and forms all analysts must know. See, US is one of the most developed financial markets all over the world, and one of the primary reason for this is the kind of the transparency it has provided to the investors. Now the government provides investors a clear view of the company's performance history, eye into the future, current progress by means of defining reg filings. So these filings are provided by the companies to SEC, as simple as that. And this filings includes like registration statements, then you have formal periodic reports. Those are basically formal reports or formal periodic reports and other forms. See, in this particular tutorial we are going to explore different types of SEC filings and the kind of information each of them provide. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the same. Now first and the foremost question that we have is why SEC filing is important. Why SEC, I'll just write for you, filings is important. This is the one big question that I have, and we'll be discussing few points over here. See, it is imperative to understand, very important to understand that SEC is a regulatory watchdog, which is created for the investors benefit. See, it collects all the documents and which details out the financial and the operational health of the companies which have stock owned and traded by the public. The SEC checks the quality of the information provided and has rights to prop the companies in case of certain information is not clearly provided. Investors use these filings to make assessment of the company's performances. So this is the prime reason, that is why the reported information becomes really very important. And in the next sections that we'll be discussing different types of the filings. Let's learn each of them one by one. As we can see over here in the picture, we have form number 10K, form 10Q, and we have 8K. 10K is basically annual presentation, the annual financial statements, the performance and the results related to the same. 10Q, as the Q specify, it's quarterly. I mean, it doesn't mean this K is for annually and Q is for quarterly. It's just the name they have given. 8K is SEC requirement to communicate any material information that may be useful to the investor. So these are the different types of the filings, and some of the most important ones have been discussed here, like the registration statements, 10K reports, 10Q reports, 8K reports. Then we have schedule 13D, proxy statements, form 3, 4 and 5, and so on and so forth. First, let's discuss what is registration statements. That is the first and the foremost thing. Let's learn. See, offering registration filed under Securities Act 1993, basically it says that the statement is used to register securities before they are offered to the larger audience like investors. So it has basically provided into two parts, one which is preliminary prospectus, and second one contains certain information which is not required to be filed with the prospectus. So the statement vary in the purpose and the content depending upon the kind of the organization which is issuing stock. So in case the corporate initiate an offering statement, it is evaluated by SEC. So if SEC require any changes in the document, the same is informed to the corporate. Post that the document is made available to the investor so that the sale of the security can be initiated. Let me show you something. This is basically the form number S1 of boxing in United States, that is Securities Exchange Commission, where it has been filed. The front page over here, it contains the name of the company, that is the Box Inc. over here, along with the key management information like the CEO, the COO, that is CEO, COO, and the CFO's details. Let me show you another form, that is S1 filing of Box Inc. Now this is basically another very important aspect of S1 filing, is that they provide details of how the proceeds will be used. This is very important for the investors because as you can see below, this is important for the following reason, like Box plans to use the proceeds of the corporate purpose, including for the working capital details, it is given for the working capital, operating expenses, and for capital expenditures. Now let's see some more details in regards to the same. Now, see, there are many other important informations in S1 filing, like the discussion on the total dilution, you can say, or management discussion and analysis of the financial conditions and results, descriptions of the shares and capital stock, and whether the shares are eligible for the future sale or not. In fact, I feel all the sections are very important. See, one section you must read through multiple times is like, the risk factors. It's really very important. And they provide a lot of detail about the business and its uncertainties associated with the business. If you want to learn how to analyze registration S1 in detail, do have a look on two other posts that is given in this particular site. Trading registration, that is our 10K form, is the next thing that we need to discuss. That is over here, part 2, 10K. So in case of 10K, the 10K report is the annual filing which a company needs to file within 90 days. Very important. It needs to be filed within 90 days of the end of the fiscal year. It provides investors and stakeholders a complete comprehensive analysis of the company. The disclosures in 10K are made under 14 different reporting items in 4 different parts. Each of these parts are there, and you can discuss in detail. See, part 1, I'll just take you one or two, like the part 1 is like there is an item of the business section of the company where details like the principal product and services offered, markets, distribution method, competitive factors, availability of the raw material, impact of the compliance, franchisee, patents, and so on and so forth. The item 2 basically contains the management discussion or analysis, which we all know as MD&A. See, MD&A is important for any company. It includes the discussion of the operational performing during the quarter, in the previous quarters, and so on and so forth. Now there is part 2 where other things are detailed out, are like there is item number 3, which says some of the details regarding the legal proceedings. That is the section of the company. It provides a brief descriptions of the material legal proceedings which are pending. There's item number 4, that is basically the changes in the security, okay, of the company. It reports any material changes in the right of the holders across different classes of the registered security. Then we have item number 5, which says details regarding default upon senior securities. So from the credit perspective, you can say this is one of the most important section, as it highlights all the cases of the material defaults. Then we have item number 6, that is in this section, which we disclose that all the matters went for vote of security holders. Now this thing basically provides all information related to the meeting of the shareholders. Then we have the 7th point, that is this section, which discloses other materially important events. Like it contains all the info which are materially important but are not finding any other head for reporting. And finally, item number 8, which is the section that contains information related to the exhibits, okay, and corporate changes. Those are the details that are mentioned in the item number 8, which happened and are reported during the quarter. The next thing that we need to understand, this was we learned 10K. The next thing that we are going to learn is the 8K report. See, 8K filing is used basically to regularly inform investors about happening in the business. Most of the developments which happen in the business are generally described in, you can say, 10K or basically 10Q report. Okay. Now in case some of the developments don't make it those filings in time, so then they are released by means of 8K, right? And it is important to note that understand that this release is unscheduled and can happen anytime during the course of the business. Now there are some of the events which can lead to the filings of the 8K, that are like first is bankruptcy information, material impairment performed by the company, completion of mergers and acquisition, disposition of various assets of the company, departure or appointments of executives in the company, changes in the fiscal years, and so on and so forth. The next thing that we need to discuss is the fourth point, that is the schedule. Let me just write for you, schedule 13D. Now what is this? See, the filing is like an acquisition statement, highlighting the details of the event. This filing is required to be filed by the equity owners who have more than, greater than, I'll just write for you, greater than 5% of equity shares within 10 days of the acquisition event. So this disclosure in 13D are made under 7 different reporting items. Then we have the next is the proxy statements. We are discussing each and everything that is available in our bucket list. See, proxy statement is basically an official notification to the designated class of the shareholders stating what all matters will be coming to vote for shareholders. This needs to be filed before the solicitation. Now, this needs to be filled out before the solicitation of the shareholders vote for any matters ranging from elections of directors to the approval of different kind of the corporate actions. The next thing that we need to discuss is the seventh point, that is there are things called form number 3, 4 and 5. Now see, in this forms basically the investors, they tend to look out for how the ownership and the purchase of the shares are taking place within the executives of the company, and each of these forms has specific functions, which is like, in form number 3, in the initial filings, which it tells us about the ownership amounts in this particular case. Let me show you that. So this is the details of form number 3, which gives United States Securities Exchange Commission and initial statement of beneficial ownership of securities and some of the details that have been mentioned. Let me just go down and show you the common stock details, over here, and the Series B convertible preference shares detail, and so on and so forth. Now there is another called form number 4. This form is basically used to identify the changes in the ownership structure in the company. So a form 4 must be filed by 10th day of the following month of the transaction. Then there is another form that is called as form 5. Before that, let me show you the form number 4 and form number 5. How does they look exactly? This goes about your with your form number 4, and there are details of the name of the address of the reporting person, amount of the securities acquired and disposed. Over here all the details have been mentioned. As you can see, the amount of the security beneficially owned following reports, transactions, and so on and so forth. Okay, now there is form number 5, which is basically the annual summary of the form 4. Annual summary of form 4 and includes all the information which has been disclosed by the company using form 4, and it helps investors get in one snapshot a gauge of what all has been trend in the ownership during the particular year. This is form number 5. As you can see, the annual disclosure of the stocks acquired and disposed of details. So finally, we have discussed all the major filings which are filed by the company with the SEC. However, let us caution investors that the list is highly representative but not exhaustive. There are some filings which are filed in special cases and are important to the particular event. But if an investors intend to understand company's information, it involves taking an extra step and learning the art of reading between the lines. So here are the cases. Some of the major red flags are the part of the footnotes of the filings. The SEC filings is regulatory mechanism to keep information symmetry between the stakeholders and the investor community at large. And these filings help investors take informed decisions when they intend to buy or sell securities. So these filings provide ample amount of information about the company. It can help investors to learn about the industry in which companies operating strategies adopted by the company in the market, and what has been the financial achievement of the company. So all this set of information together intends to provide the public at large information which is highly critical while making the investment decision. This exhaustive list of SEC forms can be found in the links below, or basically in the article itself, and you can go ahead and do some readings and learn about the companies and analyze the financial statement like a pro.